Cristiano, thank you for joining version 1 of Layout Lessons. It's good to have you here. Cristiano, being the co-founder and CPO of Layout, is the person best to take us through and show us how do you use Layout like a pro. So from start to finish, Cristiano is going to be giving us a demonstration of the best ways to get the most value out of Layout.
Yeah, thank you, Tio, for this, and happy to join and dive into how to design a floor plan using Layout. You will see immediately like this is the very starting point of any design. So you have a starting point with corridors, you have like elements that are very easy to recognize. I pre-filled some information. So what was the brief, what was the request, for example, and I can see here there is a breakdown of all the requests. I set up, for example, daylight constraints that just because the client here in this case wanted to have all the work areas next to windows, not in darker areas, so further. And I can define also, and I defined some clearances. So I want to leave a bit of space between rows of desks because later on I want to place, for example, shelves. So I can do all these settings very quickly and just click on generate. And while the algorithm start to build some options, I can look on the right side. So the right side is the one showing all the statistics. So it's showing you the cost, the carbon footprint, the efficiency, the density of the floor, number of people. And you can see that now I can click again and get another set of 3. And every time I click, I will get a new set that can be used for generating and testing some scenarios. So right now, for example, I usually generate 9 just because it's a good number to assess what are the options. And based on these icons, I can choose option based on the statistics, in particular of every single floor. In this case, this one of all the 9 generated is the one with the lowest carbon footprint. This one is the one with the maximum number of workstations, lowest cost, and this one is the highest area per employee. While I'm here, I can start to say like, okay, here are the areas. I can check what are the dimensions for every single room. I can check the dimensions. I can check the furniture, but I can also check the 3D. So immediately I can get an image of how the floor will look like, regardless of the changes that I will make. So I can see quite detailed everything. And I can also jump in, double click, and you just enter inside the floor. Remember, this is not your end point. It's just the beginning of this process. I'm here and I see this one should be a reception, or actually all of this could be a reception. So I can merge a space, I can change it, and I will make it into, for example, office services reception. And I get the reception here. Later on, I will change it, I will improve it. And I like this one to be here. I like these rooms in this side, so I will probably freeze them. And I will say, okay, I like this, so I can freeze. And yeah, why not? I like, for example, these 2 rooms put over here. So I can, for example, lock them. And then I wouldn't even bother to start to edit everything. I would just say to the algorithm, for example, just start from here and give me 3 new inspirations for what I'm doing. So in reality, the algorithm will take into account the areas that I froze and just give me more options to just brainstorm with me on what to do next. So right now I see that, for example, I can go, for example, this option here, and I can, of course, check also the other 2, but I can start from here. And I can say, for example, this is a great place for a kitchen because it's next to the core. So I can change and put it, for example, office services, T-point. So I can see this one, I can rotate, and I can place it against the wall. And what makes more sense, I can also click on this table and just add an extra table if I want, move the plant if necessary. So I can literally just edit to make the space more personalized. I can start to edit, for example, I want this to be 2 meeting rooms. So I can split, I can refresh, for example, and this will be updated. And maybe these 2 need to be lunges because they're a bit nicer to have in front of the entrance. So you see, and of course, later we can also edit this, but also this one can be locked. And I can start to look at the work areas, for example. So maybe I don't like all these long rows, and they are distant from the windows because I requested it. In the settings, I set a distance of 60 centimeters. Now, what I can do is like create a more variation on this type of layout. So, for example, first of all, I can add over desk here. And then, for example, I can leave it here. And then I can open the furniture library. And I can just go down and, for example, I want to add a plant here, for example. I want to add, for example, like some elements like a divider, for example. I can put, for example, plant dividers. So these are plants, and I can just move it in a way in which I can fit. And this will be just a divider to this area here. This one, for example, I can delete. So this allows me also to create some different type of spaces between rows. You see, like in few minutes, I literally went from 0 to having an entire floor. And then what happens here, I can go and verify it in 3D. It's a way in which I can just test how the space will look like in different ways. So once I'm here, I can just jump in, check the schematic view, activate the zone visibility where I can check everything against the space here. So you can see every element. I can move across the floor. I can even change the ceiling if I don't like the checkers. And you can literally see every single space that was generated and designed. I can go and check the tables, the lounges, and the plants. So everything is generated in a way in which you can very quickly test it and just check and verify the design. Once this one is completed, I can set the option. Let's test the Cristiano, and I can just save and export in multiple formats. So I can just do a quick PDF presentation, for example. PDF presentation is one of my favorites. It's quite fun. You can see some combination. You can check, for example, add the statistics panel. You can, for example, your logo will appear here. Your logo also will appear here in this space. You can also drag and drop here an image of a floor or an image of the building, for example. And you can, of course, rename everything from the project to the test to the files. You can also change the scale, but also you can add more information. So, for example, I want to add another page with dimensions. I want to add another page where I add the area, zone labels, and number of people. I can also, for example, select them and, for example, change the scale if I want to make it smaller. And you can, of course, use this one as a reference to make them smaller and position them, but also like rename. So I want to call it boardroom. This is a very quick system to then reset the zoom and have everything, all the information in place. You can also add another page and click on 3D. And the cool part of this is like you can literally just build the 3D with views that are working for your story, the story you're telling to your client. So for example, I can just wait until it's loaded. And for example, I want to have schematic view with zone visibility. So these colors match the chart we had at the beginning. And for example, I can add another page. Again, for example, I can duplicate and create a 3D. And for example, I can this time, instead I want to have 4 views. So use this one as a reference, but then jump in and just show, for example, from here, like I can just double click and create a view of the reception or the entrance here. So this is like one view, and maybe I just do a schematic view, like this one. Very quick, I can go to another one and go to, for example, the area here with the pods, for example. I want to show this view here. And again, I can choose, for example, different type of visualizations because they work better. And then have another one with the boardroom here. So all of this can be done and then exported. So it's very quick. And then you can also choose to export in different formats, like a CAD file, just an architecture file with all the blocks, all the layers, all is structured. You can export it to BIM models, so IFC, OBJ, or Revit files. So all of this can be downloaded and then brought into any BIM software. This one means that you can share the information with your external customers, clients, or even, for example, internal stakeholders. And you can just choose, for example, or to have an open link so anyone can open it, or you can require an email to view. In this case, you can say, for example, Cristiano at layout. And this person will receive the link. So I can, for example, open a new one. I'm just sharing another page where you will get the link. And I know now that, for example, I need to put my email. So the person receiving this will directly see, for example, the floor plan, your logo, all the information, all the data, and it's a very much more interactive solution. So this allows you to get a lot more information out of this and also share them with potential stakeholders. And they can do exactly what you can do. The only difference is like they cannot edit your design. This means you're more secure on sharing information with other external parties.
What an immersive way of being able to share a test fit with a potential client or a customer to be able to understand how the space could work.
Absolutely. I think it's very valuable for everyone to understand that with this solution, I can create a floor plan in less than, in this case, I think it was 10 minutes. And of course, you can do a lot more than this.
When you were going through and generating options, is there a limit to how many times you can generate new options?
No, absolutely not. So that's the beauty of layout. The point is like once you upload a floor, everything that you generate is all included. So you can generate unlimited options. In this case, I generated 9, but I could have continued. And for example, even when I selected and through some areas and regenerated, that is all constantly unlimited. So you can generate as many options as you want until you get to your final result. But this can be done in literally minutes.
When you're going through and you're changing configurations and you're adding and removing furniture, are all of the statistics updating live?
Absolutely, yes. That is also another value added from the app. So for example, I will just show an example. Here, for example, we have the cost that you can see here and also the carbon footprint, but also all the statistics. In the moment in which I remove 6 desks represent 6 tables, 6 chairs, and each one of them have a cost and also like a part of the number of workstations. As soon as I remove them, you see that every single value also in the pie chart is updated. This is because, of course, in the moment in which I remove something, it's also impacting the cost involved to it. And if I can go to the breakdown of the cost or the CO2, I can see the quantity. So how many meters of partition wall, or feet, of course, glass partition wall, custom elements, engineering, doors, tables. So you can see all the quantities up to the level of detail of how many counters do you have, how many desks, and what is their individual cost. Sorry, the total cost. So this one is a very automated that allows you to build a bill of quantities that you can also export as a CSV. So the moment which you export a CSV, that is an Excel file, you have all this information structured that you can reuse inside your systems.
Got you. And so if I was a customer and I knew the kind of sofas I liked buying, or I knew the kind of desks I like to buy and I knew the cost of them, could I put that into here?
Yes, so it's possible now to upload your own furniture. So in the moment which you have this library here, for example, you will be able also to create your own library. While these furniture is, for example, shared with every customer of layout, that is a layout furniture, everything else will be your private one. So in reality, you can upload your own furniture and that will be also completely private to your business. So the information about the cost, the carbon and everything will be only connected to your projects.
Fantastic. And then the sharing tools that you were presenting to us, the share link functionality, is that something that's a bolt-on to layout that people have to pay extra for, or is that built into the product?
Everything that you've seen is built in. So in reality, everything that you see can be used in any different way. Every client in general has a different use case for every single function. Some people use the share link internally for internal discussion with stakeholders. Some people, for example, we have brokers using the share link to advertise on their website 3D model that they created for their customers. And there are a lot of different ways in which you can approach this problem.
Well, Cristiano, thank you very much for your help and for showing us through how to use Layout like a pro.
Very happy to help and see you soon.